Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Kevin. I'm a certified teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. Today I wanted to talk about some deaf ed suggested reading. First, I'm going to talk about the ones that I have read, maybe kind of give a review. That's not really what I'm trying to focus on right now. Just kind of give options and present the things that I have read. The second part is TBR, to be read. So I think the first book that I've ever read relating to deafness is Oliver Sacks' Seeing Voices. I want to say that I was in early high school, and I think maybe a lot of the concepts and words went a little bit over my head, but I do remember being absolutely fascinated. And a lot of the principles and ideas and approaches that he talks about in this really influenced how I approach learning ASL, really influenced how I approach learning the principles behind deaf education. Oliver Sacks talks about the cognitive processes behind deafness, and that was really crucial for me to be able to think in ASL, to no longer be translating from English. By extension, it helped me understand my students really well. I was able to observe my students and think about the things that were talked about here in the other books that I'm going to talk about, and think about where my student is coming from. How are they organizing information in their mind? And how can I take the curriculum and translate that into a form that they will understand, process, and be able to use? The second book that I think had a really big impact on me as well is Talking Hands by Margalit. How do you say that? Margalit Fox. This book was fascinating. What I really enjoyed about this was that it was structured by alternating chapters in between the story behind the village mentioned in here, as well as linguistic principles surrounding ASL. This really impacted the way that I thought about ASL, language, deaf education as well. Going into this, I was already interested in linguistics. Reading about linguistic principles applied to ASL was absolutely fascinating. I really do recommend this a lot. The third book I want to talk about is not directly related to deafness or deaf education, but I think it provides a strong foundation for teachers of the deaf to take foundations of reading and modify, accommodate whatever they need to do in order to apply that to deaf education. The book is The Reading Mind, a cognitive approach to understanding how the mind reads. It's written in an accessible way that looks at the cognitive processes behind reading. As you go throughout the book, the author begins to build a model of reading using different facets of reading and how they interconnect. This is an example. It's not quite the final one, and that's really fascinating to consider when you are teaching students who are deaf and hard of hearing. You also have to consider the fact that they are learning a second language as well. In here, the author also mentions attitudes and mindsets when approaching reading. I've noticed in a few of my students that they've kind of taken on this attitude that reading is really hard, it's a challenge, they're kind of somehow predisposed to not being good at it. So if you're able to understand the different attitudes people have towards reading, you're able to foster a really positive reading environment for your students that encourages them to explore and read and on their own motivation to pursue different reading endeavors. The fourth book is actually a textbook for my deaf culture class, which is Introduction to American Deaf Culture. There's a few different deaf culture books, but I think this one's just an example of the topic to read into. Having an understanding of the deaf culture perspective on language, on art, is really fascinating, and you can bring those elements into your curriculum and provide your students with a stronger deaf identity. The fifth and final one in my red list is A Linguistic Perspective on Deaf Education. It's in your binder because the author, Kimberly Zanzo, has a website called languagefirst.org.com. I'll make sure to link it down below. She's a speech pathologist at a school for the deaf, and she is a very strong advocate for language access for all students. She has a lot of different materials, pictures, diagrams on her website, but this is kind of a short little book that she wrote. It's not too long. There's actually two books in here. So it's about this long. I printed it just to be able to read it in paper and if I wanted to take notes on it as well. This is a good basic overview and introduction to deaf education that strongly emphasizes the development of a fully accessible language. Across all her materials, and in this one included, I really like the way that Kimberly puts into words the things that deaf education teachers know maybe instinctually, but have a hard time explaining in ARD meetings, in IEPs, and being able to advocate for their students successfully. She gives a lot of language to those foundational principles. So for my TBR list, there's only two right now. I'm sure I could find some other ones, but these are the ones that I could find right now that I have at least with me. The first one is Language Deprivation and Mental Health. This is scholarly, it's clinical, and there's so much rich information. I just know that there's going to be so much important, vital things to be learned from here. But since it's written in an academic format, it's a little bit harder to get into. TBR, but I have a really good feeling about this. And the last one is one that I randomly came across in my library that I was surprised to see, but I'm so excited to read. It's called I See a Voice by Jonathan Ray. It's a philosophical look into what it means to be deaf. He covers the different senses, he goes into the historical perspectives of how people viewed losing a sense, what that meant. The first couple of pages that I've read have captured my attention. Since it is philosophy, it's a little bit denser and it's a little hard to get into, which is why I haven't gotten further in it, but I am so excited about this. It really gets my brain turning. It's also another reason why I haven't gotten that far, because I read a few lines and I'm just immediately captured by all the thoughts and the questions that begin to form in my mind, and I kind of trail off and get lost, and I'm like, okay, yeah, gotta get back to what he's saying. But I think that's just indicative of a really good book. Another reason why I like this is because it's kind of viewing deaf education, deafness, ASL, language from a different perspective. My hope is that the lessons, theories, and questions that I encounter in here will make me a better teacher in the classroom. So that's it for all the books that I've read and my couple of TBR books. Hopefully you found that interesting. Please let me know if you have any suggested reading, if there's anything that I didn't mention here, something that you found interesting, or if you have any questions regarding these. Start a conversation down below. I would love to hear your thoughts about books, deaf education, language, all of the above. So go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can see the future videos about deaf education that I post. And let me know if you have any other topics or video ideas that I can cover. Thanks for watching. Bye.